Okay, welcome to the 24th session of the Bhagavad Gita series of technical discussions, technical and philosophical discussions for ages 8 and up. Today is the 5th of December 2020, and like before, we are going to start with the review of the class, last class, previous class. So during the last class, we covered this sloka. It's a very important sloka. Why don't we recite this?
Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinasaya cha dushkrutam Dharma samstapanardaya Sambhavami yuge yuge.
Yeah, and the meaning?
To destroy unrighteousness and establish righteousness in the world, I come millennium after millennium.
Yeah, that's right. And last class, we also discussed minimizing the loss function. Remember? So as we grow old, last class we stopped when we were talking about, so when you're very small, like 1 year or 2 years old or 3 years, maybe, somebody snatch your toy, you would cry a lot. Yes. But how about now?
Well, you understand it's not that big.
Yeah. So as we grow old, our attachment, our desire, our possessiveness, all these material things will keep decreasing.
Which is a good thing as well.
Which is a good thing.
Because the older you get, the closer you are to having a chance at reaching God.
Yeah, that's right. So the longer we live, the more we become detached. So long life is actually a blessing to attain God. So that is why in olden days and even today, when somebody gets blessings, they are blessed for long life.
Yeah, may you live well.
Yeah, Dirgha Ishman Bhava. That means live, may you live long. So some take a lot of time, but some learn faster and attain God. Do you know of any examples who learned very fast and attain God, who learned how to get detached,
Buddha.
how to go? Yeah, Buddha, yes, Buddha, and who else? Lord Buddha.
Ramanuja and the other acharyas.
Yeah, the Ramanujacharya, Adi Shankara, Swami Vivekananda. They did not live for long. They hardly lived for. Mahatma Gandhi took a lot of time. He himself said that. He experimented with truth. His autobiography is called My Experiments with Truth. So he made mistakes in the beginning and he recovered from those mistakes. So he took time, but Adi Shankaracharya, Swami Vivekananda, Lord Buddha, Gautama Buddha, they all learn faster. So the learning rate differs from person to person. So learning rate depends on several factors, and it is decided in advance, right? Typically, if based on your previous births, you may be born to learn faster certain things, right? So it is decided in advance. So in machine learning, this is called, the learning rate is called as hyperparameter, and it is decided in advance.
Does it hypo mean like?
Hyper means above the parameters. So what are the parameters in machine learning? We thought?
Like classification?
Yeah. In classification, what were the parameters?
Parameters are like, what were the aspects?
Like, what are the numbers that we discover?
Well, the more weight something
yeah,
is, the
weights,
higher the number.
The weights are the parameters. So this learning rate controls the parameters. It controls the weights. You can make the weight smaller, you can make the weights larger. So you prefer smaller weights or larger weights? Do you remember?
In life, smaller weights are better.
Yeah, in machine learning also, smaller weights are better. The same thing for real life and for machine learning also. And to make this weight small, there is something called as regularization. And the regularization is like a hyperparameter. So these hyperparameters are decided in advance.
Wait, so if hyper means above, then that means the parameter would be higher, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no. Hyperparameters means it is beyond the parameters. It's not just another parameter, but it is a powerful parameter which controls. So it controls all the other parameters. That's why it's called hyperparameter. So learning rate is one such hyperparameter. And so you can think of the effect of the world on us is a loss function, right? That's how we learn, right? Based on the feedback you get from the world, remaining world, you learn. So the effect of the world on us can be thought of as a loss function. And in last class, we saw what is called as the gradient descent, right? So gradient descent is the process by which you minimize the loss function.
As you keep on going.
Yeah, as we keep on growing. And you can think of the gradient descent algorithm as the spiritual path. So this spiritual discussion that we are having week after week, they can be considered as gradient descent, which will help you reach the minima of the loss function, which will affect you, which will help you remove the effects of the world on you. Hara means remove, lessen,
yes,
reduce.
Ha and li, that means burning all the sins.
Right. So, so the spiritual path burns all the sins. So that is what we are doing every hour, every week on Saturdays for an hour, right? We are burning our sins. We are becoming better people by learning the highest form of knowledge. So the minima can be considered as what is the concept that we learned in Bhagavad Gita that can be considered as the minima of the loss function. Okay, let us look at the gradient descent once again. So, so last class we saw this, right? Learning rate. So if the learning rate is 0.1, then how many, you remember how many steps we will reach the minima here?
88 or
80, right? 86, I think. Yeah, that's right. So how did we do that? Oh, here, step. So
and we also learned that you shouldn't have the loss function be too big or it'll just pass.
Yeah. So if it is 0.1, the weights, the parameters keep, the loss function keeps reducing. We get different weights based on the learning rate, and you keep on stepping, we reduce the loss function. And as we approach, we take smaller steps. Initially, the steps are longer. And then we keep on stepping until we reach the minima point where the star is. There you go. So we reach the minima, yeah, around 80, 83 or 84 or 85, right? And if we increase the learning rate, suppose we increase the learning rate to 1, right? That's what we did last time.
They went way too far in the first one.
No, that was 4.
Yeah, that was my 4, I think. For 1, I think it reached, so 1, see the loss function reduced to 1.29. So initially the loss function value was 8. Now the loss function reduced to 1.28, sorry, 1.13, and the weight was 1.28. Now the second step, the loss is reduced to 0.17, the weight is 1.75. And another step, another step, another step, 6 steps. So the learning rate was high, so it reached the minima in 6 steps. And now if we become greedy and increase the learning rate to 4, what happens?
It just goes right past.
So the loss function is somewhere here, 17.5. Next step, it is 20 something, close 17.47. Third step, it goes to 88.63, the loss function, the value of the loss function. So it never touched the minima at all, right? So that is the effect of the loss function and learning rate. So this process is called gradient descent. You're descending in the path of the gradient. What is the meaning of gradient?
When it's like dissolving.
Slope. Gradient means slope, right? So this is the slope. So as the loss function reduces across the slope, the weights change, and at one point we reach the minimum of the loss function. So can you think of something that we talked about in Bhagavad Gita which is similar to this state, this minimal state?
When you reach God and have no desires, anger or fear.
Yeah, what is that state called? Do you remember?
Brahmi sthithi.
Yeah, brahmi sthithi. So this minima, so we can consider the loss function as the effect of the world on us, and the gradient descent as a spiritual path, and the minima, the state when the loss function is minimum, can be thought of as the brahmi sthiti, when the effect of the world on us is the minimal, like enlightenment, right? So you can see that there's a lot of similarities between the real life and machine learning. So now, how do we know? Now you're given a function, very big function, x squared plus 2x plus 3x plus 1, or x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. How do you know that it's a convex function? If the shape is like this, we can find the minima. If the shape is like this, can we find it? It's hard to find the minima.
Yeah.
So how do we know that a given function is like this? This type of functions are called convex functions. So how do we know that?
Like convex and concave.
Yeah, right. So this is like convex, right? If you put your face this side, you look from this side. This is convex surface. So how can you tell from the just the math that a function is convex function?
Because it's facing inward.
Yeah, how do we determine that it is facing inward? So that is the question.
If the two ends are in the middle and then the bottom is lower than the two ends.
Right. So it is given, there's a mathematical function. So suppose fx is a function, f of x. So this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis, right? So this y-axis can be thought of as f of x, function of x. It is dependent on x, right? That is why it's a function of x. So if we consider 2 points, this point x1 and this point x2, right? So the definition of convex function is the line segment between any 2 points on the function is on or above the function. So you take any 2 points. For instance, we took these 2 points, x1 and x2, join them with a straight line. any point on the function from this point lies below the straight line, right? In this case, that is true.
Yeah.
And how do you determine that it lies below the straight line? You find the value of the function by substituting the values of x in the function. And similarly, you find the values of the straight line for various values of x, right? So you can call the value of this curve, the values of y for various points between this and this as the left hand side. So when t is equal to 0, what does the left hand side represent? When t equal to 0,
The left hand side.
substitute t is equal to 0 in that function, in the left hand side. What happens? This term is
X. I mean, sorry. 0.
0, and this term is, oh wait,
Um,
I need to show here.
1.
And this term is
1.
right. So this is f of
F of 0 plus 1
times
times x to the power
x2.
Ah.
This is f of 0 plus 1 times x2. What is 1 times x2?
1. I mean x2 side.
x2. So this is, and what is 0 plus x2?
x2.
Right. So the left hand side is
F x2.
right, f of x2. So that means which point is this on the curve? If this is x1 and this is x2, which point?
It's the x2, the
Yeah, this
bottom,
point,
the
right?
lower one.
This point.
Yes.
So the left hand side when t is equal to 0 represents this point on the curve. Now how about when t is equal to 1?
T is equal to 1, then that's x1 plus 0. x1 plus x2.
x1 plus x2?
I mean f times x1 plus x2.
So what is this term? Tell me. When t
1
is equal
minus
to 1.
1.
Yeah, so?
0.
And 0 times x2?
0.
0. And this one?
And that's x1.
So this left hand side will be?
x1.
Left hand side will be, there is
F to the power of
f of x1.
Yeah.
So which point is that on the curve?
This
This
higher
point,
one.
right? So when t varies from 0 to 1, so this is what it's saying, right? T varying from 0 to 1. What values do we get on the left hand side?
You get either x1 or x2.
No, those are the extremes. For 0 you get this, for 1 you get this.
Yeah.
But for the values of t between 0 and 1,
you
get all the points across the line, across this curve.
Oh, so then those points, if those equal
Yeah.
concave.
Yeah. So if these points, the values of these points is less than these points. Now let us look at the right hand side. What does this represent? What does the right hand side represent for t is equal to 0?
T is equal to 0. So then there's no f, right?
No, when t is equal to 0, what will the right hand side represent? So this term is when t equal to 0.
So TF will equal 0.
Yeah, this whole term becomes 0, right? And how about the right term when t is equal to 0?
1. F times x2.
F of x2, right? It's a function of x2, and that point is this, right? Because this is f. That is this point. And when t is equal to 1?
T is equal to 1. Then we get
this term becomes 0, and this
And-
term becomes f of x1.
Yeah.
We get this point, right? And for values between 0 and 1 for t, we get these values of the straight line.
What
On
does
the right hand side.
Upside down A stand for?
This means for all t between 0 and 1. This is a symbol for all.
For all?
Yeah,
T.
for all values of t which lie between 0 and 1, the value of the function should be less than the value of the points on the line.
Okay,
So this is the definition of convex functions. So you can apply the gradient descent method only for these kind of functions.
But couldn't you also just use the generator and discriminator method? Because, I mean, for any human person, we can easily see if it's concave or convex. So can't we just use the same strategy that we use for the machine learning?
That is expensive. Maybe we can, but that is too expensive. The generator, we saw how much time it takes, right?
Yeah.
For doing, yeah. So it's too expensive. This is a much simpler way of doing it, right? So this is the definition of convexity. So you can apply gradient descent for these kind of convex functions. Now the function need not be just like this. It can probably be like this. It can go up and down, up and down, up and down like that. The loss function.
Right?
Yeah, because this is a very simple case of a convex function, but the function could actually be much more complicated. So in such cases, how do we find the minimum? So the gradient descent method applies to curves which are like this also, like mountainous curves. So the analogy for gradient descent is you are blindfolded, but you can see out of the bottom of the blindfold to the ground, right by your feet, right? Like some kids cheat, right? When they are blindfolded, they cheat and look at the bottom, right? So it's like that, right by your feet. I drop you off somewhere and tell you that you are in the convex shaped valley and the escape is at the bottom minimum. How do you get out?
Probably just walk.
Yeah,
down.
so the person would walk like this, probably again go a little up, then again come down, go up, come down, and so on and so forth until he actually reaches the bottom. So that is what gradient descent does, depending on the learning rate.
Wow.
So there is math behind it. We'll not go into too much math because it requires college math at least to understand the math. But just like for this curve, we could find the minima at the bottom. We can find the minima for the case when the curve is like this, like a mountainous. So that is gradient descent. So gradient descent in machine learning can be compared to the spiritual path that people take in real life. Okay. So next sloka is the 10th sloka of chapter 4. This is 4, this is 10, this is the separator for, yeah, it's like a separator, it's a pause, and this is full stop. Two bars means a full stop and one bar means a
half stop.
Yeah, a pause.
A comma.
Yeah, comma kind of thing. In Hindi, in Sanskrit, it's the same.
Even in Sangeeta.
Yeah.
So the first line is kind of like a comma, and the two lines are like basically like period.
Yes, that's right. Okay. So the sloka is, and follow the Sanskrit letters, not the English letters. Right? You can read the English letters later. As I read, follow the Sanskrit letters so that you can become familiar with the letters also. Veeta raaga bhaya krodhaa manmaya mamupashritaha bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhava magataha. I'll read it once again in English. This time follow in English. Veeta raga bhaya krodha manmaya mam upashritaha bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhava magataha. So what does it mean? Freed from attachment, fear and anger, absorbed in me, taking refuge in me, purified by the fire of knowledge, many have attained to my being. So what does it mean? So a lot of people got freedom from attachment. That means they are not attached to anything. So even if they lose something, they don't feel any bad.
They don't have any desire.
They don't have desires. So that is the freedom from attachment, right? And freedom from fear. They are not afraid of anything. Come what may, they are not afraid. And they are free from anger. That means whatever bad happens, they will not get angry. You take the example of Lord Buddha, Gautama Buddha. See, he gave up his family, he gave up his son, he gave up his kingdom, he gave up everything. He removed all his attachments.
And he had no anger either, even when the
Parents
scolded him.
He had no anger and he had no fear. He went to the forests where there were lions, serpents, cheetahs, and all those wild animals, but he was not scared. There's no instance when he was scared. So that is the kind of person that Lord Krishna is talking in this sloka. Persons who are free from attachment, from fear, from anger, and who are absorbed in me. That means they are fully thinking only about the God or the divine qualities. So God can be God himself or his qualities. Why do you recite Vishnu Sahasranama? Because these are the qualities of God. So, yeah, thinking about the 1,000 qualities of God is as good as thinking about the God. So either you can practice, you can think, you can do divine qualities, or you can just meditate upon the God. So, Lord Buddha got absorbed in the qualities of God. He practiced the divine qualities. Right? He did not do penance on God. Instead, he practiced the divine qualities. Right? So, freed from attachment, fear, and anger, and absorbed in me, taking refuge in me. That means you
seek shelter.
Yeah, you seek shelter. Good. You seek shelter in the God. So, in one of the names of Lord Ganesha is He Ramba. He Ramba means one who loves somebody who is in a He state. When do you say He? In Sanskrit, at
when you
least.
surrender.
Yeah, when you surrender. Hey Prabhu, like that. I'm in trouble, please help me. Hey Prabhu. So Lord Ganesha is supposed to be pleased by people who surrender themselves to him.
Isn't that what we learned in another sloka? To think that everything that you do and everything that you get is to God, basically surrender to him?
Yeah, that's right. So one who takes refuge in me and one who is purified by the fire of knowledge. Knowledge is compared with fire. In olden days, particularly, even today, fire, water, air, fire, these are all considered purifiers.
Panchibhuta?
Yeah, particularly water, air, and fire. Um, so
And earth in some way too, because we all live on earth, and then we get purified from it. Like we learn from loss function.
yeah, you can consider it that way also. But fire, air, and water contribute are considered direct purifiers. So if you remember Ramayana, Sita, goddess Sita jumps in the
Yeah.
fire. Why does she jump in the fire?
To purify herself from
Yeah.
being with Ravana.
That's right. To purify herself. So
Yeah,
fire
so
is
the
considered the purifier.
Test.
Yeah. So fire is the ultimate purifier. Water purifies. You clean your vessels. You clean a lot of stuff with water, right? And then air purifies. Air's name is Pavana, right? Pavana means purifier.
Really?
Yeah. Um, Pavaka, Pavana. So it means, so air is also a purifier. Um, um, so yeah, air is treated as a purifier in many instances, but fire is also a purifier. Fire is the ultimate purifier. So Lord Krishna is comparing knowledge with fire. So knowledge is like your fire. It burns all these desires. See, we are learning this, all this great superior knowledge. What will it do in the long run if we keep on thinking about these thoughts? If these thoughts grow with us, then the knowledge from these thoughts will burn the desire. The knowledge will burn the fear in us.
So
And then,
this sloka is saying that jnana yoga is important?
yeah, knowledge. Purified by the fire of knowledge. So your knowledge has grown to the extent that it can purify you from some of the bad things that are characteristic of this worldly life. So when all these things happen, people attain God. So Lord Krishna is saying that many have already done that. Many have attained to my being. See, you take Mahatma Gandhi. Now you raised the topic of Mahatma Gandhi, right? Why is he called Mahatma? Mahatma means a great soul.
Because he, at the moment he was about to die, only at the moment he was about to die, he thought about God.
Yeah,
He
that
said,
is one
"Hey,
reason.
Ram."
Yeah, when he was dying, he said, "Hey Ram." But not only that, even his life,
He fought for world peace.
You look at all these things. He got freed from attachment.
Yes.
When his son was doing bad things, his own son was doing bad things, he denounced him.
I did not.
Denounce means he put an advertisement in the newspaper saying that he has no relationship with the son. He terminated his relationship with that son.
Because he has no attachment.
Yeah, he doesn't have attachment. And he never had fear. That is the basic quality which won us the freedom. Won
Right.
India. Yeah, India got freedom because of Mahatma Gandhi's fearlessness.
He didn't even get scared when the British soldiers like told him that they were going to put him in jail. He didn't get scared.
He didn't get scared. So he was out of fear. And he did not exhibit anger in spite of so many bad things happening to him. He lost his temper once or twice, but he conquered anger also to a great extent. See, so Mahatma Gandhi is one example. And if you read his books and all that, you will see that he was very devoted to godliness. And he was purified by the fire of knowledge as well. He believed in Bhagavad Gita, he believed in the supreme knowledge, and he practiced it. So he is another example who has attained the God. So like that, there are many people who practice this. So it's not like it is not possible. Many have already done it. And by doing this, they have attained the God. Right? So it is not that it is impossible. It is possible. Only thing is, some people can do it quickly, and some people will take a lot of time. Like Adi Sankaracharya, if you study the life of Adi Sankaracharya, he qualified with all these qualifications very early on in his life. He was freed from attachment. He gave up his family, and he was never afraid of anything, and he was never angry. He had to go through a lot of difficult times in his life, but he never lost his temper, and he was always absorbed in the God, and he took refuge in the God, and his knowledge is very superior. The song Bhaja Govindam that he wrote, it has so much knowledge in it. If we have time, we will cover that Bhaja Govindam also next in one of our classes. So there's so much knowledge. So he was purified by the fire of knowledge. So many people like that have practiced and succeeded also. So that is what the God is saying. Let us look at the individual word meanings. So Veeta, V means what?
Not.
Vita.
Not.
Vita. Yeah, not. Right. Vita means without.
Oh.
Vita means without.
It kind of sounds like Vita.
Yeah. So that means freed from or without. Raaga means attachment. We got this word before also, right? Raaga. So raaga means anuraga basically. Anuraga, raga means attachment in any Indian language also.
Yeah, it's in a song.
Yeah, anuraga. Yeah, most of the Indian languages use anuraga, which instead of raga directly. But anuraga and raga mean the same. They mean attachment. Bhaya in Indian language,
bhaya.
Fear. Krodhaa
Anger.
means anger.
Yeah, we've come across these three words a lot.
Yeah. Maya.
Magic?
No, Maya, that is Maya. Maya means me. So Mat Maya. Mat Maya means fully in me.
So Mat means fully?
Yeah, sort of. Mom means in me.
Oh.
Mom means in me.
Yeah, I've heard the word mom before.
Me too.
Yeah. Upashritaha means being fully situated.
So being fully ready?
Yeah, upashritaha. Yeah, being devoted. I mean, in this context, fully devoted, fully thinking about, fully inside something. Bahavaha.
B to B or
Yeah,
something?
Bahu means many.
Oh.
Bahavaha means so many. Jnana, you already know, is of knowledge. Tapasa means penance. Tapas means penance. Puta means purified. Remember we talked about Punnava Narakas last class?
Yeah, and Putra.
Yeah, Putra. Yeah, Puta means purified. Madbhavam means full of bhava means your feelings, full of feeling for me, transcendental love for me. Madbhavam means full of feeling for me. Agataha means attained, means reached. Agata.
Yeah, we've heard Agataha before as well.
Yeah, ga means movement. Agata means you have reached that stage. So that's individual word meanings. And the meaning of the sloka itself, we know that when somebody is freed from all the worldly things, then he is eligible to reach God. So you can consider number of analogies, right? So you finish high school and then you want to get into a top school. Like, what are some of the top schools that you want to get into?
Berkeley, California State.
Like
Harvard,
UCB,
Yale.
yeah, Harvard, Yale, MIT, University of California at Berkeley, Stanford. So can you get in just like that? I mean, will they, if you apply, will they take you?
No, you need to have supreme qualities.
Right, you need to have supreme qualities, really superior qualities. So you need to prepare for admission, right? Same with God. You need a lot of preparation. God, you cannot get into God just like that. You need a lot of preparation. And this sloka tells you the preparation that you need to make, or that you need to follow to attain God. So what is the preparation?
Is practicing devoting everything to God,
Right.
And getting rid of desire, fear, and anger.
Right. So practicing detachment, practicing fearlessness, and practicing peace, giving up anger. So you have to practice. So after lots and lots and lots of practice,
and tyagi.
Yeah, sacrifice. After practicing all these things, then we become eligible to merge with God. See, like another analogy, right? Another example. You take the bubbles on water. So as long as there is air inside the bubble, they are seen as bubble.
Yeah, but if there isn't, they're just
Once the
water.
air is gone, then they are water. So God is like the water, and we are like the bubbles. We are full of ego, we are full of anger, desires, and all that stuff. It's like air inside the bubbles. All the worldly things are like the air in the bubble. When the air is gone, we get attached to we become one with the God, just like the bubbles become one with the water. So the practice that we should do to attain God is to remove the air from us. And what is the air? The attachment, the desire, the anger, the greed, the lust, all those things. So when we remove all those things from us, from inside us, we become one with God. So that is another example.
Another analogy is also you can think that the water is the soul, right?
Yeah, the water is the soul.
And then all the air inside the bubbles are like us being human and the materialistic things. And then once all that is gone, all that's left is just water.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we can think like that also.
But the soul is God.
Yeah, the soul is anyway God. So it is very important. This sloka is very important because it tells us the practice that we need to do to attain God. And this practice is possible only on earth. Even like we talked in one of the previous classes, even Yaksha, Kinnara, Gandharvas have to come to the earth to practice these things. And then if they show any signs of these things, they have to come back to earth to get themselves freed from all these like Bhishma. Right? So this sloka tells us it's like an algorithm for us, right? And this practice enhances with by associating with the right kind of people. If your friends are bad, right, then you may take the wrong path. But if your friends are good, then you're more likely to um, be a good person as well. So what is the meaning of satsang?
Satsang means good. I mean, sat means like truth.
Yeah, sat means truth or good. Sangha means?
Sang daksha.
Yeah, sangha daksha. In
I think that means
HSS.
like scared at attention.
Yeah, daksha means attention. Vishrama means
Vishnu
sanity.
means like
Vishram. No, Vishram is take relax. Daksha means attention. So in English, when we were small, we were also made to do that, but in English, they would say
stand at attention.
Stand at ease and
attention.
I think, yeah.
So sang daksha arama.
Yeah, so what is Sangha?
Sang must mean stand.
No. Sangha means? No.
Pay attention.
No. Group. So Sangha Daksha means group. Attention.
Oh. So it means a group. Oh, a good grouping. Yeah.
Yeah. So Satsang means good group. So it's always, that's why there are a lot of satsangs. Even in the Bay Area, there are a lot of satsangs. But most of the satsangs are attached to a guru, which is good. Like Satya Sai Baba, there is a group.
And the the Chinnajir Swami.
Yeah, Chinnajir Swami's group. JET, right? It's called JET. JR Educational Trust. So there are a lot of satsangs. So associating with that satsang is an important tool for practicing these things, this supreme knowledge, right? So you should always try to be in a good group. So which brings us to
like KNN.
Yeah, like the clustering, right? So remember we talked about clustering?
Yes.
Grouping into finding natural groups in people. I mean, in data actually. But in our Bhagavad Gita case, we want to get associated with the right kind of people. We want to, and just like the features decide which group to which group a point belongs, our own features decide which group we will belong. So if we join a satsang and we talk all bad things, we keep on complaining, we become angry. If the prajna class is slightly delayed, you complain, then what will happen? That's not the right practice. So you should exhibit the right kind of features also. So based on the features, the clustering algorithm works, right? So the goal of clustering algorithm in machine learning, this is supervised or unsupervised?
These are supervised, right? Because they're
supervised is when you have a label. In this case, we don't have a label.
So they're not.
They're not supervised. So they're unsupervised. There's no label. We just have the features. And based on the features, we group them together. Right? Like in your class, how were the groups formed? Did you have groups in your class?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you form groups?
Well, when we were in school, we would have table groups formed.
You have to speak up. You have to come.
Okay. When we were in school, we had table groups formed by whether we worked well together or if we would talk, or based on certain factors.
Those are features, right? Factors or features, right? So the same thing happens in clustering, in machine learning clustering. Based on the features, the points, the data is grouped together. So the goal of the algorithm, the clustering algorithm, is to minimize the intra-cluster distances. The distance between the points within the cluster must be minimal, and the inter-cluster distances must be maximum. So one cluster, another cluster, the distance must be as far as possible. So that is the goal of clustering. So, there are different types of clustering. So one is called as partitional clustering. Partitional clustering is basically dividing the points into partitions. You divide the points. So like in this case, the original points are like this. So you can see there are three clusters, right? One is this, the other is this, and the third is this. So the clustering algorithm will find out these clusters.
But how does it find out the two on the top? Because the space between them are almost the same as the space between the bottom three dots and the two higher dots.
Yeah, so that is where the algorithm's power comes in. The algorithm is powerful enough to detect these kind of patterns, these kind of distances.
So it like measures down to like the various smallest little millimeter thing?
Right.
So that's why we use machine learning, because it's so much more advanced.
Yeah. So this is machine learning. So that is partitional clustering. The other kind of clustering is, so here, these three were distinct. The three clusters are distinct.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right? But in hierarchical clustering, the clusters are nested. Like as you can see, the innermost cluster is P2, P3. Then the outermost, the next nested cluster includes P4 as well. And then the final cluster includes P1. So this can be represented as a dendrogram. Did you study dendrogram yet? No, right? I think you'll study it in 8th grade or I think you'll study it in 8th or 7th grade or something. It's in biology. You will encounter dendrogram in biology when you study about species.
So it's not math?
The dendrogram is typically used in biology, but we also use it in machine learning. So the dendrogram looks like this. So the length of the branch indicates the closeness of the points. So as you can see, the smallest branch is between P2 and P3. So that means these are very similar to each other, P2 and P3. That's why they are nested first. The next is P4. The next height of the branch is P4, and the maximum height is for P1. So that's why it's at the end. So you can represent the nested hierarchy. Why is it called hierarchical? Because there's a hierarchy, right? P2 and P3 are at the innermost cluster. Then P4, this is the next cluster. And the third is this cluster. So there is a hierarchy. What is the hierarchy? Order. There's an order. So that is the reason why it is used in biology. Biology, we learn about the order of species.
Oh, like the way things have evolved.
Yeah, like we are like monkeys and people and all. They belong to what order?
Monkeys.
Okay, or crocodile, lizard, snake.
Reptiles?
Yeah, they belong to the class reptiles, right? So there is a hierarchy there. That is why we represent the hierarchy using dendrogram in biology. So in machine learning also for hierarchical clustering, we talk about dendrograms. So if it is a traditional hierarchical clustering, we can draw a perfect dendrogram, traditional dendrogram like this. This is traditional because it's fully nested. The smaller one, the inner one is nested between the second one, which is nested in the third one. So there's perfect nesting. But some cases, the nesting is not complete. Like in this case, P2, P1 are in one cluster, P3, P4 in other cluster, and they're not fully nested. So that is a non-traditional hierarchical clustering.
That's not hierarchical.
There is still hierarchical because remember these two clusters belong to the bigger cluster.
Oh, okay.
So there is still hierarchy. That's why it is still called hierarchical clustering, but it's non-traditional. So that's why it's called non-traditional dendrogram. So this is hierarchical clustering. What are the applications of where all do you think the clustering comes in? Helps
to classify something.
Like what? Did you encounter this anywhere?
Like when we started this class, you gave us the example of like a self-driving car.
Yeah.
And to identify something like what a stop sign, if a stop sign is a stop sign, it could cluster the factors and
yeah, that's right. But even simpler examples exist. So for instance, you search something in Google Scholar. There's a website called Google Scholar where all research, you can search all research works, like research papers. So I can show you. So suppose you search, it's called Google Scholar. You search my name. You find all my research works here. So, and you will see related articles. So that is an example of, if you click on related article, it will show all the related articles. So that is an example of clustering. Yeah, because all the related articles based on the features, they're all clubbed together. So this is an example. Related articles is an example. And the next example is when you search for news. When you search for news, it says 157 news sources. So how did it group the 157 news sources? Based on clustering. Based on the features in those articles, those are all, and you search for dog in Google. You search for dog, it will neatly group the dogs into categories.
German,
by clustering. So this is another example of clustering. So this is the algorithm, but we don't have time for the algorithm today. So we will cover in the next, probably one of the future classes, how exactly the clustering is done. Okay. So let us end the class today's class with our regular prayer. Okay. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amrutangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Sanmangalani Santu. Okay, we will meet again next week.